For U.S. citizens, international travel typically involves a passport, visa, and an interest in experiencing other cultures. However, certain geopolitical conflicts, diplomatic policies, and security issues have led to restrictions on travel to specific countries. The United States imposes limitations, warnings, or outright bans on travel to some destinations where safety, security, or political tensions pose particular risks. Below is an in-depth examination of 5 countries where Americans face travel restrictions or prohibitions: North Korea, Iran, Cuba, Syria, and more. So, here's the list of 10 countries where Americans are not allowed. Before we start, make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment your thought. Here we go. Number 1. North Korea. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or North Korea, is one of the most isolated and secretive countries in the world. Led by an authoritarian regime, North Korea has tense relations with the United States and many other nations. The country's government strictly controls all aspects of public life, including the movement of foreigners within its borders. Why Americans are restricted? In 2017, the U.S. Department of State issued a travel ban for U.S. citizens wishing to enter North Korea. This ban was implemented after the tragic case of American college student Otto Warmbier, who was detained, reportedly mistreated, and fell into a coma before being returned to the United States, where he died soon after. The U.S. government believes the risk of detention or mistreatment of U.S. citizens by North Korean authorities remains high. Consequences of non-compliance. The restrictions mean Americans cannot legally enter North Korea using a U.S. passport, and violating this ban may result in fines, legal consequences, and even imprisonment. The U.S. government emphasizes that consular access is limited in North Korea, making it exceedingly difficult to assist Americans who may face arrest or detainment there. North Korea's opaque legal system and hostility toward the U.S. amplify the risk of arbitrary detention for Americans. Exceptions in rare cases. While Americans are generally banned from visiting, exceptions may be made under limited circumstances. For instance, journalists, aid workers, and other professionals may apply for a special validation passport, which the U.S. Department of State grants only for specific reasons. Even then, these travelers face strict scrutiny and heightened risks while in North Korea. Number 2. Iran. Iran is a country with a rich history, stunning landscapes, and a vibrant culture. However, the relationship between the U.S. and Iran has been fraught with tension for decades, stemming from the 1979 Iranian Revolution, the hostage crisis, and more recently, nuclear program disputes. Why Americans are restricted. While U.S. citizens are not banned outright from visiting Iran, traveling there is highly restricted and poses significant risks. Iran's complex relationship with the U.S. has led to travel advisories urging Americans to avoid the country due to the risk of arbitrary detention, particularly for those with Iranian heritage or dual citizenship. Iranian authorities have detained numerous Americans under accusations of espionage or subversion, often under dubious or unproven allegations. The lack of diplomatic relations further complicates the situation, making consular assistance virtually impossible. Visa process and legal issues. Americans wishing to visit Iran must go through a complicated visa process and are typically required to be part of an organized tour with an approved guide. Iran security forces monitor foreign visitors closely, and breaking even minor rules can lead to harsh penalties. Additionally, Iran does not recognize dual nationality, which can put Americans with Iranian heritage at particular risk. U.S. government's position. The U.S. Department of State advises Americans to avoid travel to Iran altogether due to the high risk of detention. The lack of diplomatic relations and the risk of strained legal proceedings make Iran a perilous destination for U.S. citizens, even for short visits. Number 3. Cuba. Cuba, the largest island nation in the Caribbean, is known for its vibrant music, culture, and beautiful landscapes. Its proximity to the United States, however, has not translated into friendly relations. Following the Cuban Revolution in 1959, tensions escalated between the U.S. and Cuba, leading to decades of political, economic, and travel restrictions. Why Americans are restricted? Travel to Cuba for tourism purposes is still illegal for U.S. citizens under the long-standing economic embargo. The embargo, which has been in place since 1962, is intended to limit U.S. economic engagement with Cuba and restrict Americans from financially supporting the Cuban government. However, there are permitted categories for Americans who wish to visit, including family visits, educational activities, journalistic pursuits, and humanitarian projects. Restrictions and compliance. Travelers must adhere to strict guidelines and report their activities under the Support for the Cuban People category, which is one of the few legally permitted ways for Americans to visit. This requires travelers to avoid any government-owned entities and instead support local, privately owned businesses like restaurants, guest houses, and tour operators. Breaking these rules can result in penalties from the U.S. Treasury Department. Changes in policy. The regulations surrounding U.S. travel to Cuba have fluctuated over recent years. During the Obama administration, restrictions were eased, allowing for expanded categories of travel, including people-to-people educational exchanges. However, under the Trump administration, many of these changes were rolled back, reinstating stricter limitations. The Biden administration has maintained a cautious approach, keeping many restrictions in place, but allowing some direct flights to specific cities in Cuba. Number 4. Syria. Syria is a country with ancient history, rich culture, and a legacy of religious diversity. However, it has been ravaged by civil war since 2011, leading to widespread destruction, loss of life, and displacement of millions of people. Syria's conflict has drawn in various global powers and has led to a deepening humanitarian crisis. Why Americans are restricted? Due to the ongoing civil war, widespread violence, and the presence of terrorist groups, Syria is an extremely dangerous destination. The U.S. Department of State has a do not travel advisory in place for Syria, citing the high risk of terrorism, civil unrest, and the lack of safety for foreign nationals. The collapse of civil infrastructure, combined with the Syrian government's hostile stance toward the U.S., adds to the danger. Consequences and challenges. Americans traveling to Syria face not only the risk of being caught in violent conflicts, but also the potential for arbitrary detention by Syrian authorities. Additionally, the Syrian government and its allies view the U.S. with suspicion, making American travelers possible targets of harassment or worse. The U.S. Embassy in Damascus closed in 2012, meaning that Americans detained or in distress have no local consular support. Humanitarian and journalistic exceptions. Although regular travel to Syria is off-limits for Americans, certain humanitarian aid workers and journalists may receive exemptions, though they are strongly discouraged from visiting. Even with these special permissions, they face extreme risks on the ground. The conflict-ridden environment and complex security situation makes Syria one of the most dangerous destinations for U.S. citizens. Number 5. Venezuela. Venezuela, a resource-rich nation in South America, has experienced significant political, social, and economic turmoil in recent years. Once one of Latin America's most prosperous countries, Venezuela has struggled with hyperinflation, shortages of essential goods, and a humanitarian crisis that has led millions of its citizens to flee. Why Americans are restricted? Political relations between the U.S. and Venezuela have been severely strained, particularly since the rise of Nicolas Maduro as the country's leader. The U.S. government does not recognize Maduro's government as legitimate and instead supports opposition leader Juan Guaido. The situation has led to the closure of the U.S. Embassy in Caracas, resulting in limited consular support for Americans in Venezuela. There are also severe security risks due to crime, civil unrest, and political instability, which the State Department highlights in its travel advisory. Legal and political risks. In recent years, there have been reports of American citizens being detained in Venezuela, sometimes under accusations of espionage or other politically motivated charges. Venezuela's legal system is under the heavy influence of the government, making due process and fair trials difficult for foreigners to obtain. Additionally, widespread crime and economic instability make Venezuela a challenging and dangerous destination for American visitors. Exceptions and limitations. While there is no outright ban on visiting Venezuela, the U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4 Do Not Travel advisory, warning Americans of the severe risks involved. Humanitarian workers and other professionals may still enter the country, but they do so at their own peril and often under the protection of specific international organizations. Even then, the risks of kidnapping, robbery, and detention remain high. Number 6. Libya. Libya, located in North Africa, is a nation rich in oil resources and a blend of Arab and Berber cultures. Since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi's regime in 2011, Libya has been plagued by political instability and internal conflict. Multiple factions have vied for control, and the government remains divided and weakened. Why Americans are restricted? The U.S. Department of State has issued a Do Not Travel advisory for Libya due to civil unrest, terrorism, armed conflict, and a lack of a functioning central government. The power struggle among factions, as well as the presence of extremist groups such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and local militias, pose a severe risk to foreigners. Kidnappings, attacks on foreigners, and the risk of being caught in crossfire are significant concerns. Safety concerns and consequences. Libya's conflict zones, particularly around Tripoli, Benghazi, and the southern desert regions, are extremely dangerous, and Americans face a high risk of violence or kidnapping. Libya's limited law enforcement capabilities make it nearly impossible to ensure visitor safety. With no U.S. embassy in Libya, American citizens have minimal diplomatic support if they encounter issues. Additionally, due to strained U.S.-Libya relations, Americans who travel to Libya may face significant scrutiny and difficulties. Exceptions in rare cases. While regular tourism is out of the question, a few humanitarian and diplomatic personnel may occasionally receive permission to enter Libya. However, such cases are rare and often require strict security measures and oversight. Libya remains one of the most dangerous countries in the world for American travelers. Number 7. Afghanistan. Afghanistan, a landlocked country in Central Asia, has endured decades of conflict, with both internal struggles and international military interventions shaping its recent history. The U.S. and allied forces maintained a military presence in Afghanistan for 2 decades following the 9/11 attacks, but the 2021 U.S. withdrawal left the Taliban in control of the country. Why Americans are restricted? The U.S. Department of State has placed a Do Not Travel advisory on Afghanistan due to the risks of terrorism, civil unrest, and armed conflict. Following the Taliban's resurgence, the country's security situation remains precarious. The Taliban government has imposed strict laws and heavily monitors foreign visitors, posing risks for Americans, especially those perceived as representing Western interests. Risks and consequences. For Americans, the dangers in Afghanistan include the threat of terrorist attacks, kidnapping, and arbitrary detention. Extremist groups like ISIS-K and other insurgent factions continue to operate in Afghanistan, targeting both Afghan nationals and foreigners. The Taliban government's restrictive policies, including those against women's rights and freedom of speech, make Afghanistan a challenging place for Americans who might disagree with these ideologies. The U.S. Embassy in Kabul closed in 2021, meaning American citizens lack any on-ground consular support. Humanitarian and diplomatic exceptions. In certain cases, humanitarian aid workers and journalists are permitted to operate in Afghanistan under specific circumstances. However, Even these travelers face serious risks as there are limited protective measures in place. The Taliban's unpredictable enforcement of laws and regulations only adds to the dangers. Number 8. Somalia. Somalia, located in the Horn of Africa, is a nation characterized by a unique blend of Arab and African cultures, but has suffered from decades of civil war, clan-based conflicts, and poverty. The country has remained politically unstable, with no central authority able to maintain security and law enforcement effectively across its territories. Why Americans are restricted? The U.S. Department of State has a do not travel advisory for Somalia due to terrorism, piracy, violent crime, and ongoing conflict. The lack of a stable government and the presence of terrorist groups like Al-Shabaab make Somalia an exceptionally dangerous destination for Americans. Al-Shabaab, a militant group with ties to Al-Qaeda, actively targets foreigners, and kidnappings are frequent. Specific threats and risks. Americans face the threat of terrorist attacks, kidnappings, and violent crime in Somalia, particularly in the capital city, Mogadishu, and other populated regions. The Somali government has limited control over its territory, meaning there are few law enforcement measures to protect foreign nationals. Additionally, Somalia's coastline is notorious for piracy, and even offshore travel in the region is hazardous. With no U.S. embassy, Americans have little to no consular support in Somalia, leaving them highly vulnerable in emergencies, humanitarian, and professional visits. While regular tourism is strongly discouraged, humanitarian workers and certain international organizations maintain a limited presence in Somalia. These individuals, however, must follow stringent security protocols and often work under armed protection. Even these measures, though, cannot eliminate the dangers posed by the volatile environment. Number 9. Myanmar, Burma. Myanmar, also known as Burma, is a Southeast Asian country known for its diverse culture, rich history, and natural beauty. However, the political situation has been turbulent, particularly since a military coup in February 2021, which led to widespread protests, violence, and international condemnation. Why Americans are restricted? Following the military takeover, the U.S. Department of State issued a high-level travel advisory for Myanmar due to civil unrest, violence, and potential risks of arbitrary detention. The military's harsh response to dissent and their tight control over public life have created an environment that is hostile to foreigners, particularly those from Western countries. Risks for Americans. The risks in Myanmar include violent crackdowns on protests, political repression, and arbitrary detention. The junta is highly suspicious of foreign nationals, especially journalists, aid workers, and those perceived to be aligned with pro-democracy efforts. Americans in Myanmar risk being detained or even expelled, often under vague accusations of espionage or destabilization. Myanmar's opaque legal system and lack of independent judiciary make it difficult for detainees to receive a fair trial or timely release. Limited exceptions. While travel for tourism is not currently advisable, certain humanitarian aid workers and diplomats may still receive permission to operate in Myanmar. However, these individuals face strict monitoring by authorities, and their movements are often limited. Security is a constant concern, and the situation in Myanmar remains volatile, making it a difficult environment for any American traveler. Number 10. Iraq. Iraq, situated in the heart of the Middle East, has a rich historical heritage but has experienced extensive conflict over the past few decades. Since the U.S. invasion in 2003, Iraq has struggled with insurgency, civil unrest, and terrorism. The country's political situation remains complex, with ongoing influence from regional powers and militant factions. Why Americans are restricted? The U.S. Department of State has issued a do not travel advisory for Iraq, largely due to terrorism, armed conflict, and the risk of kidnapping. Militant groups, including ISIS and Iran-backed militias, operate throughout Iraq and frequently target Westerners and symbols of U.S. influence. Iraq's fragile government has limited control over these factions, making the situation highly dangerous. Dangers and potential consequences. Americans in Iraq face the risk of terrorist attacks, kidnappings, and violent crime. Militias often view Americans with suspicion, and individuals are at risk of detention or harm, especially if they are perceived as involved in political activities. Even in urban centers like Baghdad, there is a high potential for unrest and violence. Furthermore, sectarian violence and anti-U.S. sentiment in certain areas make Iraq a particularly hostile environment for American travelers. Humanitarian and diplomatic missions. While tourism is not viable, Iraq does allow certain humanitarian, diplomatic, and military personnel to operate within its borders. However, strict security measures are required, and these individuals often operate in secure zones or under military protection. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad remains open but operates under significant security constraints, which limits the extent of support they can offer to Americans in Iraq. Conclusion. So, guys, this was the 10 countries where Americans are not allowed. Hope you will like it and appreciate it. While Americans can travel to a vast majority of countries around the world, some destinations pose unique challenges and dangers, leading to restrictions or outright bans. North Korea, Iran, Cuba, Syria, and Venezuela each have unique geopolitical relationships with the U.S., contributing to restricted access. Travelers who ignore these advisories not only put themselves at personal risk, but may also face legal consequences upon returning to the U.S. Each of these 5 countries offers a rich culture and complex history, but remains a destination that Americans are advised or even prohibited from visiting due to concerns ranging from safety and security to political tensions. Americans are encouraged to research travel advisories, understand the risks, and make informed decisions before considering travel to these regions. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and press the bell icons for latest upcoming travel videos. Bye-bye. See you.